So I saw some Path of Exile 2 gameplay, and I gotta say, it instantly hyped me up. The graphics are amazing, the visuals are so clean, and the spells and VFX. Totally next level. I haven't been this excited about a game in a while. With the early access release of Path of Exile 2, I'm beyond excited for its full free release next year. And while I wait, I thought, why not give Path of Exile a shot? Something I've never actually done before? It's not that I didn't know about it, I've been always aware of the game. But every time I saw its gameplay, I saw a screen overcrowded with NPCs so much that you can't even spot your character. Plus, in some cases, the VFX were so intense that it was nearly impossible to follow what was happening, which made it difficult for me to ever really get into it. But now, with Path of Exile 2 out in early access, I just couldn't wait and installed Path of Exile. And while I'm at it, I thought what else could be a better way to kick off my channel than by sharing my first-hand experience of games? I'll be doing first impressions, news, and gameplay of Path of Exile and more. So whether you're a newcomer like me, just starting out, or a veteran, here for some nostalgia, I'm sure you will find something for you in this video. In today's video, I'll be sharing my first impressions and experience as a fresh player diving into Path of Exile in 2024. So hey, what's up gamers? I'm Bit, and welcome to EveryBit-Game. Let's start with character selection. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really vibing with any of the options available. First up was the Templar, who looked like a bald mage. Then there was the Shadow, who looked tough but malnourished. After that, it was Marauder, who looked like the big dumb barbarian. Then comes the Ranger, basically an archer. She was decent, but honestly, I wasn't feeling like playing as a female character in this game. Hence, the Witch was also an instant no, which left me with the Duelist, who looked like the charming guy who gets robbed at the market every time he goes out. But before making my final decision, I did a little bit of research on characters and classes. And yes, only a little, because I don't want it to get any spoilers. And that's when I found out about Ascendancy. For each class, you can choose from 3 different ascendancies later on in the game. And one of the Duelist ascendancies, Slayer, caught my eyes. It looked badass, so I decided to go with Duelist. Now when it comes to gameplay, as expected from an ARPG, it started on a beach. I picked up the broken rusted sword next to me, then talked to the guy sitting nearby. And of course, he gets eaten by a zombie almost immediately.
That'll do for now.
Even the dead rise to challenge me here.
After killing the zombie, I started making my way to the town. The mobs in this beginning area are slow, but try not to aggro a lot of them, as they deal decent damage together, especially if you are playing a melee character like me, and since we don't have any stats on us yet. But don't just run past them like others who are doing speedrun. Remember, they have already played the game and know a lot more than you and I do, because those initial mobs are easy to kill and drop some good items to introduce you to the weapons, gems, and skill system. Don't worry about losing health as well, because you always have a health flask, about which game will let you know by pausing the game and pointing at it if your health drops too low. Using the flask once doesn't empty it, and it refills with every mob you kill. Now, how cool is that? Same goes for the mana flask, as using skills drains your mana quite fast, but it also starts restoring automatically after a couple of seconds if you stop using your skill. Then, near the entrance of the town, you will find a mini-boss. I actually died to him first time, but I came back and took him down easily the second time. But of course, this was just the beginning. I knew there was a lot more to learn, so I carried on. Once you enter the town, you can find Nessa and talk to her to get your next objective. There are 4 NPCs in total in this town, whom you will be interacting with to get your initial missions and objectives, primarily from Nessa and Tarkley. Additionally, they both also act as vendors, so you can buy and sell items to them, but don't expect to get anything extraordinary. While Nessa sells gems and also rewards you with them for completing her missions, you can purchase gears from Tarkley. Now to purchase anything, you will need some money or currency. I had collected a few gold from the zombies after playing for a couple of minutes, but soon, I get to know that you cannot purchase items or gears with them. There are different currencies to purchase the items from vendors, but there is no instruction available on how to obtain them in the game. So after a bit of Googling, I found that you can earn those different currencies by selling different rarity items that you loot from mobs and bosses. Speaking of which, a good thing is that the dev seems to have fixed this issue in Path of Exile 2 by adding better guides and instruction videos. But if you still can't figure out anything in the game, then hey, you can always Google and find a solution for it, thanks to the big community that this game has. Moving on, now that I knew how to purchase items, it was time for some shopping. I bought some weapons and gems, which brings us to the topic of skills and gear. First, let's talk about gems. There are two primary types, skill gems and support gems, and they come in 3 different colors, red, blue, and green. Skill gems allow you to use active skills in combat, while support gems can enhance the stats of those skills. But don't get too excited. It's not as simple as just slapping a support gem onto any skill. Not all support gem will work with all of your active skills. Fortunately, you can check if a support gem supports any of your active skill or not before purchasing it. So please don't be a fool like me and waste your hard-earned money on gems that may not work with your active skill you might be planning to use it with. But wait, it doesn't end there. Let's talk about gear and slots. The gear you're wearing will have slots for gems, and these slots can vary from item to item. In fact, 2 pieces of same gear can have different slots from each other. Gears can have 1 to 6 slots. The interesting part is that you can place any type of gem in any gear that you are wearing, and this is important, the gear has to have matching colored slots for the gem. So if you buy a green skill gem, but none of your gear has a green slot, well, then that gem is just useless. And here's where it gets even trickier. If you want to use support gems with a skill gem, then you also need to make sure the gear has linked slots available and that they match the colors of your gems. Thankfully, this system has been improved in Path of Exile 2, which everyone in the community seems to really appreciate. Although you can put gems in any of your active gears, but also make sure to check if you can use the skill with your current weapon set or not. Otherwise, you will have an active skill which you can't use. Last but not the least, the gears come in different rarity, and generally higher rarity means better item. You can differentiate them by their color, like white, purple, yellow, etc. Then there are orbs, another item that you can acquire from mobs and bosses. And if I'm not wrong, from vendors as well, by selling certain items. These orbs allow you to convert any common rarity item to a higher one based on the orb you are using. Also, there are items in the game which allows you to re-roll or add more slots to any of you supported gear. Now, to equip any piece of gear, you need to have certain stats from your passive skill tree, like strength, dexterity, and intelligence. Depending on the item, every time you level up, you earn 1 skill point which you can use to up any of your passive skill stats. To improve these stats, you need to navigate to the passive skill tree screen, which looks like this. Yeah, I know, it's a lot, but don't panic just yet. There are actually 2 more trees like this one that you will unlock as you progress through the game. But jokes aside, it's not as overwhelming as it may seem. The key is to focus on the next node and the direction you want to go in, rather than trying to understand the whole tree at once. With that out of the way, let's talk about maps. Now, when it comes to maps, I've got to say, each one I've explored so far is super unique, with a great mix of mobs and environments that really keep you engaged. There's always something new and exciting to discover. The variety is amazing. One minute, you're walking through wastelands, then you're in dark forests, swamps, or even rocky mountains. The diversity in biomes is just awesome. And then there are the caves and dungeons. Some of these are narrow and claustrophobic, giving off serious haunted vibes. Trust me, at first glance, they may seem intimidating, but they're really not as bad as you might think once you get the hang of it. Speaking of which, let's talk about boss fights. Now, I'm still in the early stages of the game, so I haven't encountered any major bosses yet, but I did face off against the Warden in one of those narrow dungeons. Not sure if the Warden even counts as a boss, but the encounter was pretty fun. Even though it wasn't the hardest fight, it was a nice introduction to the kind of challenges the game has to offer. And with that, let's move on to the conclusion. Alright, so after spending some time with Path of Exile, I can confidently say it's been a blast so far. There's definitely a learning curve, especially with all the updates and additions the game has received over the years. But it's been nothing short of enjoyable. The visuals still have that classic, timeless feel to them. Sure, they're not the flashiest, but they've aged really well. As for the characters, I still don't vibe with them much, but honestly, that only makes me even more excited for Path of Exile 2, where the character designs and gear look much better. And when it comes to Path of Exile 2, the quality of life improvements are a big win. The better guiding instructions, the removal of skill gem restrictions, and all the other tweaks they've made are really going to improve the overall experience. I can already tell that these changes will make the game much more accessible and enjoyable, especially for newcomers coming to the genre. So if you're thinking about jumping into Path of Exile for the first time, I say go for it. It's a grind, but it's a rewarding one. You won't regret it, and honestly, you won't know until you try it for yourself. I'd love to hear what you think. Are you also excited for Path of Exile 2? Or maybe you have some other games you want me to cover? Drop a comment and let's explore them together. Games are more fun when you have someone to play and discuss with. And hey, if you enjoyed the video, a like would be really appreciated. Starting this channel was a big decision for me, and your support really helps keep me motivated to bring more videos like this that we can enjoy together. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you too enjoy games like us, and every bit of it.